Hello everybody, my name is Cubit, and welcome to a video featuring my favorite player homes for Skyrim. Now I thought this video would be a cool one to put out because I've seen plenty of comments of people asking which house mods I like best. And after thinking about it, I actually realized that the house mods that are my favorite are not necessarily the ones that are the most endorsed on the Nexus. So this particular selection of mods may not be for everyone, but based on your comments, I have a feeling that many of you will really enjoy this particular selection of player homes. Almost always, my favorite type of house mod is the one that is very cozy and the one that has lots of attention to detail. I really like house mods that fit into the world relatively well and that aren't too crazy elaborate and huge. That, of course, is just my personal preference, and that is also what I'm going to be basing this video off of. I really love the house mods I'm about to showcase, and I'm sure some of you out there will absolutely as well. This particular mod list is based around the Standard Edition, or Old Rim. But if a mod that I feature is also available for the Special Edition, you will be able to see it at the bottom of the screen as usual. So without further ado, here are the favorite, coziest, lore-friendly-ish house mods for Skyrim. First up, we have a mod that is fairly new, and it's called Viking's Longhouse. And it is, of course, based off of a Viking-style longhouse. Pretty self-explanatory. This particular home is located right outside of Windhelm, and fits right in with the surrounding houses. This mod author did their best to try to reconstruct a historical Viking longhouse. Even though I don't know a lot about Viking history, I certainly think that the design of this particular player home is simple but unique. It fits in really well thematically with Skyrim, and the vibe of the whole house is just extremely cozy. There are a bunch of beds for you and your followers to use, and there are rugs and pelts all over the place. In the middle of the house itself, there is a super duper cozy looking fire pit. In the back, there's a private area in case you want a different space from your followers. And this whole place has a cooking spit, a tanning rack, a workbench, and an alchemy lab. This particular house mod doesn't offer anything too special in terms of its amenities. It's not too terribly flashy, but it has such a special design and a totally cozy vibe that makes me love it so much. I would highly recommend giving this a try, especially if you like to play Stormcloak characters. Next up, we have another house that is actually situated right next to the Vikings' Longhouse, and it is called Routa, or Routa, or Rota. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it. I'm gonna go with Routa. Regardless of how it's pronounced, this player home is absolutely adorable. It's pretty spacious, but also definitely hits that cozy vibe. There is a fire pit in the middle, there are bookshelves, storage containers, and weapon racks on the sides, and there is a second floor loft where your character's bed is situated. The mod author wanted the design of this house to fit in very well with Windhelm's theme, the Stormcloak theme generally, and I think they did a fantastic job. Once again, it has its own kind of flair, but it sure does have an excellent basis in the game world. There are great little details sprinkled around the house, but it doesn't feel too cluttered. Overall, I would definitely recommend this player home. Next up, we have a personal favorite of mine, one that I've featured once before on this channel ages ago, and it is called Windpath. This is a house mod that is located relatively close to Riverside. Once again, a house that has its own design, but also a convincing variation of plenty of the farmhouses that you regularly see in Skyrim. Outside of the house, there are plenty of crafting tools you can interact with, an adorable little stable, and inside there are two different levels, the first with a very cozy kitchen and a large bedroom, and also a lower floor, which has two different rooms you can give to your followers, a super cute hallway section, and a little bath sauna area. This is obviously a great home to include followers in, and one of the things I like most about Windpath are the really nice little details. For instance, steam coming out of a flagon, water flowing into a steaming bath, a little primitive ice box for all of the meat that your character has collected, and even a fireplace you can turn off and on. Even though much of this house is compact, there is certainly enough space for followers, and it just has an incredibly pleasant vibe to it. I would certainly recommend this mod to anyone who likes spending time in the greater Riverside or Riften area. Next, we have a pretty well-known house mod. It is called Legend of the Eagle's Nest. This particular house is a little bit different from the other ones that I've mentioned so far. It has kind of a castle fortress design to it, but in my opinion, nonetheless, it does not make it any less cozy. Despite its design, it actually isn't all that enormous. It has several locations outside where you can do your crafting. It has a barn-like interior where you can keep farm animals if you choose to buy them. And the main section of the Eagle's Nest includes a very impressive design, but certainly also a warm and cozy one. There's a cooking section, plenty of custom storage, a bed on the upper section with a water basin right next to it, and one of my favorite parts about the interior is the little section next to the fireplace, which has some customly designed chairs and a little chessboard, which I think looks absolutely awesome. One of the extremely cool things about this particular house mod is that you can actually hire a steward, a guard, and bring in some farm animals from Riverwood. It gives the home a little bit more of an official and lively feel. This home might not be the best for the very beginning of your character's playthrough. However, the design of the house itself isn't too ridiculous. Although impressive, it certainly doesn't look out of place. This house mod is really fantastic, and it's definitely one of the best. Every space it utilizes has a purpose to it, and that's something I really appreciate. Moving on, we have a mod that is very fitting to its name, called Tiny Shack. This is a shack located right next to Whiterun, a little bit of a ways from all of the villagers' houses. It has a very similar design to much of that particular section of the region, and is an extremely convenient home due to its location. This particular house mod is an excellent starter home. It very simply has a bed, some custom storage, and a place to cook. Not too much more than that. But of course, much like many of Eleonora's mods, there is tons of attention to detail, many objects carefully placed, and even a little custom coffee design that I personally really love. As some of you guys know, I also really love coffee, and the ability to actually make it in this particular house is something that really puts a cherry on top of this particular mod. The house itself can feel a little bit cramped, but it's also for the beginning of a playthrough, and I think that feeling actually fits in really well with its design overall. This is definitely one of my favorite starter house mods. Next up, we have a mod that I have used in many Thief playthroughs. It's called Thief Player Home in the Riften Canal. This particular house mod is really excellently placed in the city, it fits right in, and the construction and design of the house is absolutely fantastic. It has a little bit of a makeshift feel, and yet has a really warm and cozy interior vibe. There are plenty parts to this particular house. There's a place for cooking, a place for enchanting, a place for alchemy, and even, if you join the Thieves Guild, a little bit of a pathway to get to the Ragged Flagon. This mod also has a little sneaky door that leads you to a secret room full of tons of gold and goodies that your character has no doubt stolen. This mod, of course, has its own awesome unique design, lots of attention to detail, of course, because it's Eleonora, and much like the mod that I just mentioned, is extremely convenient. And sometimes, that's all it really takes for you to really adore a player home. It is absolutely perfect for playing through the Thieves Guild questline, and generally spending any time around the Riften area. Couldn't recommend this mod enough for a thief character. And lastly, we have a mod that was actually the first player home that I really loved. It is also, of course, extremely popular. It's called Riverside Lodge. This is a pretty big player home located right next to Riften. It is an estate filled with plenty of amenities, several beds, and a multitude of spacious rooms. There's even a bonus bath and sauna. The location of this house is really beautiful, and also extremely convenient as well, as it's right next to Riverwood, and also right next to Whiterun. The design is very similar to many of the houses that you see in Skyrim, but the interior is really nice and spacious. However, at the same time, many of these rooms have a purpose. Out of all of the mods that I've mentioned so far, if there was one that was best for followers, I might have to say Riverside Lodge. It has just enough space for your followers to roam around in it, plenty of things that they can spend their time doing while you sort through your storage or whatever else. The house itself doesn't have anything too supernatural or special, but it's just really well constructed, very convenient, and extremely cozy as well. As you guys can clearly tell by this particular video, I really love cozy, lore-friendly houses. Skyrim itself isn't too dark of a game, but its atmosphere is certainly chilly and a little bit harsh. And that contrast of having a player home, where everything by design is adorable and warm, is just absolutely fantastic in my mind. These particular player homes don't necessarily have the most extreme features to them, but that's actually kind of why I like them. They're pretty grounded in the game world, while also being pretty unique in themselves. Hopefully you guys appreciate that extremely particular opinion and these thematic compilations. If you do, make sure to subscribe. And of course, if you liked any of these mods, please make sure to endorse them if you like them. I'd also like to point out that nearly half of the mods that I featured in this video were created by Eleonora. If you know very much about the modding community, or if you've downloaded any house mods at all, chances are you know who she is. An extremely talented mod creator who continues to make really great stuff. If you really like the player homes and outfits that she's made, I recommend that you go over to her Patreon and donate a few bucks. Certainly it's not something you have to do, but these mod authors put in hundreds, if not thousands of hours to create the things they do, with virtually no compensation whatsoever. With that said, I hope you guys like this little compilation, and I'll be coming out with much bigger ones very soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.